Welcome to Business Recipe. Every business has a recipe. Here's theirs. Today's recipe, OpenAI, 6 versions, 9 years, 1 deleted word. In 2015, Elon Musk typed 2 words into an email that would become the most valuable promise in the history of artificial intelligence: benefit humanity. In 2025, OpenAI quietly deleted one of those words. Not humanity, the other one. While the world is watching Musk and Altman fight over who owns the kitchen in a federal courtroom in Oakland, California, no one is asking what actually happened to the recipe. OpenAI rewrote its founding mission 6 times in 9 years, and when it finally stopped rewriting, the word safely was gone. This is not a story about 2 billionaires and their lawyers. It's a story about an institution that promised to protect humanity, then changed what that promise meant 6 times, until the protection was no longer in the language. Here's the recipe we're going to follow. We'll trace every rewrite. We'll meet the co-founder who wrote privately in his own diary that the whole thing might be a lie. We'll follow the word safely from the moment it was added to the moment it disappeared. And we'll ask the question nobody in that Oakland courtroom is asking. Who decided it was safe to delete safely? In November 2015, Elon Musk sent an email. He was trying to name the most important thing he'd ever helped build. The name he proposed: Freemind. His exact words, submitted as a trial exhibit in federal court. Least bad name I have thought of so far is Freemind. Conveys the sense that we are trying to create digital intelligence that will be freely available to all. The opposite of DeepMind's one ring to rule them all approach. Sam Altman replied that Freemind was a little too close to DeepMind. He suggested Axon, or something related to Turing. They settled on OpenAI. The man now suing OpenAI for betraying its founding mission wrote the founding email. He proposed the name. He drafted the original philosophy. He built the recipe, then spent 10 years trying to sue someone else for changing it. The 2015 founding charter, also entered as a trial exhibit, declared that OpenAI would create open-source technology for the public benefit and was not organized for the private gain of any person. The IRS Form 990 from 2016, the first year of public record, put it plainly: OpenAI's goal is to advance digital intelligence in the way that is most likely to benefit humanity as a whole, unconstrained by a need to generate financial return. That was the original recipe: community, openness, no private gain, unconstrained by profit. It was also, as we will find, a recipe that nobody in the founding group was fully committed to keeping. Musk pledged $1 billion to fund OpenAI. He contributed $38 million. That's not a rounding error. That is a 96% shortfall on a founding commitment. OpenAI's attorney pressed him on this at trial. Musk pushed back. He had contributed his reputation, his relationships, intangibles. He believed his total contribution exceeded $100 million. The court record says $38 million. Musk is now suing for $150 billion over an organization he underfunded by 96%. The other founding ingredient was Microsoft. Not in 2015, but by the time OpenAI had grown into something that needed real compute, Microsoft would invest $13.8 billion. Microsoft has no safety mandate. Microsoft is not a nonprofit. And Microsoft, after restructuring, would own 27% of OpenAI, more than the nonprofit safety board. But we're getting ahead of the recipe. The recipe looked good on paper, but the chef's notebook told a different story. Here's how you rewrite a recipe without anyone noticing. You don't announce it. You don't hold a press conference. You file a tax return. First rewrite, 2018. The IRS 990 that year quietly removed the final sentence from OpenAI's founding mission. The part about building AI as part of a larger community and openly sharing plans and capabilities along the way. Community, transparency, deleted, no announcement. It appeared in a government document filed with the IRS, and almost nobody noticed. This is the method. Make the important changes in the documents that matter legally, not in the ones people actually read. By the time the deletion is discovered, it's already done. 2019. OpenAI created what it called a capped profit structure. Investors could earn returns up to 100 times their investment. The phrase "unconstrained by a need to generate financial return" was still in the mission. But the legal structure now enabled exactly that constraint. In the same year, Musk left the board. He later claimed he was pushed out. OpenAI said he wanted to take control of the company. Either way, the man who wrote the founding recipe was no longer in the kitchen. 2020, another rewrite. Benefit humanity as a whole became benefit humanity. We think became OpenAI believes. Two small substitutions. The collective voice, we together, community, replaced by a corporate pronoun. Small words, large signals. 2022, something unexpected. The word safely appeared for the first time. The mission now read, build general-purpose artificial intelligence that safely benefits humanity. This was a PR upgrade, not a safety upgrade. The word arrived the same year ChatGPT launched, the same year OpenAI became a household name. It was added when OpenAI needed people to trust it most, and then 3 years later, in November 2025, it was gone. The IRS Form 990 for fiscal year 2024 read, ensure that artificial general intelligence benefits all of humanity. The word safely, added in 2022, deleted in 2025, lasted exactly one product cycle. 3 years. The length of time it took for OpenAI to decide it no longer needed to say the word out loud. 6 rewrites, each one quieter than the last. But the 7th document, the one that was never meant to be public, turned up in a federal courtroom. On November 6, 2017, less than 2 years after OpenAI was founded, Greg Brockman opened his diary. Brockman was OpenAI's president, co-founder, the man both Musk and Altman had trusted to hold the institution together. That evening, he wrote, cannot say that we are committed to the nonprofit. Don't want to say that we're committed. If 3 months later we're doing B Corp, then it was a lie. He wrote, not feeling so great about all of this. The true answer is that we want Elon out. He wrote, this is the only chance we have to get out from Elon. Is he the glorious leader that I would pick? That diary became Exhibit 43 in a federal trial. Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers cited it in her January 2026 ruling. Not as background detail, but as the reason the case was allowed to go to trial at all. It was damning enough to survive a motion to dismiss. A private diary from 2017, a federal exhibit in 2026. The chef's notebook made it into the courtroom. Here is what the court record reveals about both men simultaneously. Musk demanded, according to Altman's sworn testimony, 90% of OpenAI's equity. Not a safety commitment. Not a governance structure. 90%. He also told Altman, per that same testimony, that control of OpenAI should pass to my children if he died. Meanwhile, on day 4 of trial, April 30th, 2026, Musk admitted under oath that his own company xAI trained Grok, using OpenAI's model outputs, through a process called distillation. He was suing a company whose technology was actively being used to build his competitor. When asked if using OpenAI's models to train Grok was a yes, Musk said, partly. The man suing over the betrayal of OpenAI's mission had been feeding OpenAI's outputs to his own AI in potential violation of OpenAI's terms of service, while the lawsuit was pending. After restructuring, the OpenAI Foundation and the nonprofit legally obligated to hold the safety mission owns 26% of the for-profit OpenAI group. Microsoft, which has no safety mandate, owns 27%. The safety watchdog is a minority shareholder in the company it is supposed to watch. Tufts professor Alnor Ibrahim, who first noticed the deletion of safely from the Form 990, put it plainly. Since all but one board member currently serve on both boards, it is hard to see how they might oversee themselves. The kitchen inspector works for the kitchen. Before we go further, let's make the strongest possible case for what Altman did. First argument. The for-profit conversion was necessary. Building AGI requires data centers, chips, and energy infrastructure that no nonprofit can fund. Altman has said OpenAI may need trillions of dollars to complete its mission. A less safety-conscious rival winning the AGI race is worse than OpenAI winning with diluted safety language in a tax filing. Second argument. The word safely was never a legal commitment. It was aspirational language. OpenAI was never regulated like a safety agency. Deleting a word from a tax filing is not the same as abandoning safety research. Both arguments are real. The for-profit conversion did enable the compute scale that made ChatGPT possible. The mission language was always aspirational, but here is what those arguments cannot explain. The word safely was deleted quietly in a tax document, with no public announcement. If the deletion was justified, why wasn't it disclosed? That question, not the trial, is the one that matters. 5 safety researchers left. One word was deleted, and 300 million people never heard about either. The 300 million people using ChatGPT today did not sign up for a company whose mission no longer includes the word safely. They signed up for a nonprofit dedicated to the benefit of humanity. That company no longer exists in the form they were promised. In 2018, a researcher named Joshua Akiam argued internally that safety should come before scaling. OpenAI's leadership documented the argument, acknowledged it, and continued scaling. This is not hindsight. The tension between safety and scaling was live, documented, and resolved in writing, in favor of scaling. The people who trusted OpenAI's mission did so without knowing that resolution had already been made. The people who ate this recipe include the safety researchers who built it and couldn't stomach what it became. Jan Leica, Ilya Sutskever, Miles Brundage, Stuart Ritchie, William Saunders, Zoe Hitzig. 6 safety researchers, all resigned in 2024, all documented, all gone before the word safely was deleted from the Form 990. Brundage went further. In March 2025, he accused OpenAI of actively rewriting its own safety history in a public post. Not just changing the mission, rewriting the past. The kitchen's own chefs walked out before the recipe changed. That is the detail the trial is not asking about. The Attorneys General of California and Delaware had regulatory oversight of OpenAI's nonprofit status. When the restructuring happened, both engaged in what was described as constructive dialogue. Neither blocked the conversion. When OpenAI reversed course in May 2025, announcing the nonprofit would retain formal control, the AGs called it a success. Board Chairman Brett Taylor said, OpenAI was founded as a nonprofit and is today overseen and controlled by that nonprofit. Going forward, it will continue to be overseen and controlled by that nonprofit. The reversal restored the structure. It did not restore the word. The IRS Form 990 still says nothing about safely. You can control a kitchen that no longer follows the original recipe. Here's the turn. The Musk vs. Altman trial is not about who betrayed OpenAI's mission. The court record shows the same thing about both men. Musk demanded 90% equity and dynasty control. Altman steered OpenAI toward companies he personally held interests in while overseeing the deletion of the safety language. The trial is 2 men fighting over who owns the kitchen. It has nothing to do with what the kitchen was supposed to cook. The founding recipe was open source, public benefit, no private gain, safely. 3 of those 4 ingredients are gone. The 4th is being litigated by someone who never intended to honor it. In November 2015, Elon Musk wrote an email proposing the name Freemind, digital intelligence freely available to all humanity. The IRS filing that came out exactly 10 years later, November 2025, dropped the word safely and the phrase unconstrained by financial return. The man who wrote the recipe sued over the kitchen. Nobody sued over what was cooking. Which brings us to the only question that matters going forward. What does it mean when the most powerful AI company in the world no longer has a legal obligation to build it safely? If this is a recipe for how to quietly remove safety from the most powerful technology institution in history, here are the 3 signs it worked, and what to watch for next. Sign 1. Mission language in a tax filing is a governance document, not a marketing document. When OpenAI's IRS Form 990 dropped safely, it was not a copywriting decision. A 990 is a legal record. The nonprofit's mission, as stated in that filing, defines the standard against which the board's fiduciary duty is measured. If the mission says safely, board members can be held accountable for unsafe decisions. If it doesn't, they can't. The deletion of one word removed a legal accountability hook. Watch for this pattern in any institution that says it's changing its language to be clearer. What it's often changing is what it can be held to. Sign 2. When safety researchers leave a safety institution, the culture has already changed. Jan Leka, Ilya Sutskever, Miles Brundage, Rosie Campbell, Stephen Adler, Zoe Hitzig. These departures happened in 2024, before the word was deleted in 2025. The culture changed before the language did. This is the sequence to watch. People first, then words, then actions. By the time the mission statement changes, the kitchen has been running without the recipe for over a year. Sign 3. The lawsuit is the distraction, not the story. Every hour of coverage given to Musk versus Altman is an hour not given to the governance failure that happened in a tax document. Both men had motives that had nothing to do with safety. The trial is real. The testimony is damning. But it's damning about control. Not about the thing both men once promised to protect. When two powerful actors fight loudly in public, look for what they are both quietly not talking about. That is usually where the recipe changed. 6 rewrites, 5 researcher departures, 1 word deleted. The trial is about who owns the kitchen. The real story is that nobody's cooking what the menu promised. If this video opened a door you didn't know was there, subscribe to Business Recipe. We find the angle everyone else is covering around. Next, the company that rewrote its own cost structure so many times, its customers couldn't compare it to anything else. Different kitchen, same recipe. Today's recipe, complete. 6 rewrites, 1 deletion, no one in charge of the kitchen. So, what business should we crack open next? Drop the company name in the comments. We read them. If you want more case studies like this one, subscribe. New recipe every Tuesday.